And we are Left Coast Live for Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024. You might have noticed that this Dieter McBusiness is beardless, whereas the
Dieter
one and only
McBeardless.
Fat,
yeah,
stateless patriot has a righteous beard still. Yeah, it's the stubble's come back in, but
real
once
quick.
every couple of years. I don't even do it once a year. I do it once every couple of years.
Yeah.
For the last 8 years, I've just decided to, go all the way down to the cleanly shaven. But I don't have much of a
Right.
jawline is the problem without the beard.
That's kind of my
So that's
issue.
my vanity. That's what Hollywood did to me was make me think about things like that.
Yeah.
Was my jawline, like
Yeah.
guys like Stallone and Bruce Willis and who's another one big time. I don't know. You know those guys with the
Yeah.
jaws.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. Real,
that's
real
that's that's
square. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I rarely ever go clean shaven just because I don't really have like the jawline that like just pops out, you know. And it's crazy how fast, like, cause I've started doing this thing where I'm just growing out like more of the goatee and the mustache, and like
hmm
shaving the sides and whatnot. But it's crazy, like even how fast like the cheeks grow in. Like facial hair grows in hella fast.
yeah, mine does. Mine does in real quick, real thick.
Yeah.
And the rule though is you find your Adam's apple
Mhm.
and then you do two fingers and that's your line.
Oh
A lot of people will go all the way up here. No, that looks weird.
no.
When you look at from the side, that looks weird. You got to
Yeah.
go down here. It's like down here.
Yeah. That's basically
Yeah.
what I do. Like like my dad even like recommended like just focus on like get on the neck, get rid of the neck hair, the one that's the
Veneered.
yeah, basically, yeah. But the rest of it that's actually like attached to the chin and just underneath it, that's what you keep. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we've all got a lot of creativity in our facial hair
Mhm.
on the left as far as men go. I think we should talk about the study at some point. We don't need to do it now, but we should talk about some study. I can't remember. I don't have a reference or anything to it right now, but I know that there's a lot of data suggesting out there that white lefties, white male lefties in particular, are the most unhappy people in all of America. So I have my ideas as to why that is the case. But before we get into that issue, is there anything you would like to share with the audience, or how are you doing? Your room looks like shit, by the way.
Yeah, it's been really hard adjusting after getting home from vacation. Like I just don't want to do anything. Like I'm in the middle of doing laundry right now. So I've torn my whole bed apart. I got stuff in the dryer. A hamper full of clothes down there as well. It's just getting back into the routine of things. Like I still haven't gone to the gym. Like and that was like a big routine. Like
Yeah, I know.
before I went back before I went to Texas. And it's just been kind of soul draining in a way because it's like I'd much rather be traveling. I'd much rather be seeing the
Yeah, of course.
sights.
Who doesn't
Yeah,
love to travel? I mean, who
seeing.
doesn't love it's new and exciting? There's something new to do every day in a place you've
Yeah,
never been. Like traveling
exactly.
is the best. It's also the most expensive thing to do.
Right. Yeah. What
Unless you're lucky enough to live in Western Europe, and then you can jump on a
for
train and go to
real?
40 different countries in, a matter of a few hours.
No kidding.
So that's the way. I would love to do that. I figure I don't have, you know, enough money to go do trips like that.
Yeah.
So I'll just do them in my 50s. I got two dogs, that are pretty young.
Yeah.
So if I go anywhere traveling, like getting on a plane, it's like $150 a day just to have them housed. Like if I had a place where I could
Right.
leave them for like a week and not have to worry about them and have it be for free, like
Yeah.
someone with like a big ass farm or whatever, that would be one thing, and
Right.
maybe that'll happen someday. Until that does, every time I think about traveling, I'm like, is this going to be worth $150 a day? Just
Yeah.
before I do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. And on top of that, like getting back from vacation, like I had so much money to just spend at my leisure basically and take care of myself and whatnot. And now that I'm back, like it's just like back to budgeting. It's like I was so used to the leisure while I was gone. Now that I'm back, it's just like, oh damn, this kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But that's basically where I'm at. But either way, overall, like I will say, like despite like getting back in the swing of things and it just being just mentally crushing and just kind of just frustrating, for lack of a better word. Like I really am like kind of really like in the best position I've probably been in, at least my adult life so far. Like I'm very very pleased with where I'm at. Like uh, just financially, mentally.
Good.
Well, despite like post vacation depression, as it were, I guess. Like I can truly and sincerely like say that with like good honesty.
No, that's great, man. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's an exciting time to be a sports fan. Both the NBA and NHL playoffs are going on,
Yeah.
and it's the first round of both. So those two fan bases, you have to remember that's like all of Canada.
Yeah.
Within the NHL, that's basically their market is Canada.
Oh yeah.
And even though the best team in the league, I guess, is the Carolina Hurricanes. But yeah, so I'm a big part of my value proposition is to get lefties into the culture of sports. I think we've talked about a few
Hmm.
times. Um, I think
Oh
it's
yeah.
really important. I think it's really important. What are your sports interests?
I mostly just like casually follow football. Like I joined some old high school buddies in ESPN fantasy draft. I started off like the season like hella strong. I think I had like a 6 or 7 straight like
Yeah, but what do you
losing streak.
watch? Like NBA, NHL? Like for me, I'll
If
give you my spiel.
if
Okay,
I
here's
if I
what here's
yeah.
what I watch. Here's my schedule. So I'm religious about the NFL. I watch as much NFL as possible. Um, I watch some college, like the big marquee matchups, but not really. The bowl
Yeah.
season is fun. College is just, in my opinion, college football is a
Yeah.
vastly inferior product to the NFL. It's basically minor league NFL, and
Right.
there are only 6 to 10 teams. Now, this interesting
Yeah.
situation with this huge playoff next year, so that might change that product in a way that appeals to me. But I do pay attention to college football. I just don't watch the games as religiously.
Right.
So it's football is the biggest, and then I watch the NBA postseason only if the Celtics are in it, and I watch baseball postseason only if the Red Sox are in it,
Hmm.
and of course I watch the NHL only if the Bruins are in it. Although this year I am kind of enjoying the NHL at large. It's such a fast product.
Of
Hockey
course.
is awesome. Playoff
Yeah.
hockey is
Hockey.
awesome.
Hockey's
It
insane.
works. It's so fast.
Yeah.
And it's just so random who wins. Like these
Pretty
goals come
much.
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, making, whether it be mistakes, it's one of those games where, like, and you're playing at that high level, it's a lot about mistakes,
Yeah,
you
not even
know.
not even just like the NHL either. Like even like the minor league games are like just as intense. I've actually attended like a handful of minor league hockey games, and it's still like just
They're
as
so much fun.
exciting. Really though, yeah, yeah. I totally
I can't believe their schedule. I can't believe either the NBA or the NHL schedules. They are 20% longer than they need to be. They just don't need to have that long of a regular season. And they've both expanded these playoffs. There's no bye weeks or buys, and it's like over. I don't know if it's the case for the NHL, but I'm pretty sure it is. I know it's the case for the NBA. Over half the league makes the postseason. I do not think that's right. I
crazy.
do not think over half
Right?
the
Yeah,
league should make the
that
postseason.
doesn't seem right. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
like 30 to 40% of the league should make the
How
postseason, somewhere in there.
how many teams total are in the NHL?
I don't know. I can't. I wish I knew my numbers, but I can tell you the NFL is the paradigm. The NFL, the problem is the NFL got greedy, and then that made it okay for everybody else to get greedy. But because they had a perfect system set up. up with 6 teams per conference. Top 2 teams get a bye, and it was beautiful. And then they got greedy and they added a seventh playoff game and they added an extra regular season game, so 18 games is coming. I mean, when does it end?
Right.
Like the slippery slope argument is a logical fallacy by definition,
Yeah.
but so is the fallacy of ignorance. Now, you have to remember about logical fallacies, they can be starting points or supporting points for greater arguments. For example, like there is no certain proof that aliens have never been to Earth,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
There is no standard proof. That does not prove that aliens have never been to Earth,
Right. Exactly.
right? It
Yeah.
it might have happened. We just don't know about it because we haven't found the evidence yet. It could have happened millions of years ago, whatever.
Yeah. Like deductive
Okay.
reasoning. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So, the fallacy of the slippery slope isn't dismissible when you see these results.
Right.
I mean, this is the slippery slope in action.
Yeah.
In action. And this is a slippery slope that I don't think maybe we talk enough about in American society is the slippery slope of capitalism and money infiltrating the integrity of things like professional sports. I mean, professional football is the most violent, dangerous sport in the world. Like, I think, unless you get into things like deep sea fishing and shit like that. But, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's so violent. The guys who play it are absolute physical specimens in terms of percentages. The people that you see play in the NFL are in the top 0.01% of population in the United States. Like that's how few people can play the game at that level.
Yeah.
Because you have to
Physicality.
remember all these. It's not. It's because you can't coach size.
Yeah.
Like speed is obvious. You obviously have to have speed to play
Hmm.
at that level. You have to have speed to play at any level. But when you get to the NFL, you better be 350 if you're playing offensive line.
Hmm.
And if you're not, you better be able to get up to 350. And hold on, my dog is here. What are you doing, sweetheart? So anyway, all of this is by way of saying that, for example, UFC. Okay, Trump went to that UFC event. We watched it. We got
Yeah.
copyright striked for it,
Right.
but they love him. People who are, in general, people who are obsessed with violence, and that's a certain kind of violence. That's not like boxing
Of
violence.
course.
That's like straight up beat the shit out of the other person with some rules like no eye gouging and no biting
Yeah.
and no going for the junk.
Yeah.
Those are the big rules in UFC. Okay, everything else is pretty much legal. Um, so my point is like lefties who find the UFC unappealing, okay? They don't have to be fans, right? And they don't have to and this doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be the UFC. It can be anything. It's probably the NFL is probably the easiest choice, but NBA is also a great choice too.
Right.
But you have to find something in either pro sports or college sports to pay at least attention to. You
Hmm.
have to find something, and it's probably going to be NFL, might be the NBA. Hey, if you're from a cold weather city, it's probably the NHL, or maybe it's college hockey. I don't care. The point
Right.
is that 50% of Ivy League students are athletes. Okay?
Yeah.
So why is that? Because there's a lot of money that goes into these athletic programs.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of running operating costs. They need to sell tickets. They need to sell it needs to generate some return. So you
Yeah.
have to have, competitive players and so forth. So it
Yeah.
all works its way up. The strata of athletic competition is a very easy way to understand America. Period.
Yeah.
Specifically for lefties, it's a great way to understand American competition and, by extension, the American political competition that we are staring down the barrel of for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
This shit isn't over once Trump dies.
Yeah. Of
This shit
course not.
isn't over once Trump dies. This is a whole generation.
Hmm.
This is, as they say in the psychology business, intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
That's what this is. And it takes a lot of therapy. It takes a lot of therapy
Oh
and
yeah.
sometimes medication and sometimes a lot of life experiences to get through that intergenerational trauma. And the truth is, a lot of people never get there.
Yeah.
That's the God's honest truth. A lot of people
Absolutely.
never let go of those old scars, and I think that in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, if you can show the anti-Trump conservatives that the Trump conservatives are really just a bunch of overgrown children with
Hmm.
votes and guns and Bibles and Confederate flags, like if you can get them to see that, it's like, hey, let's give government a chance, okay? I'm not talking about irresponsible government. I'm not talking about excessive government. I'm talking about efficient government. And there we are back to what I want to hear your opinion on, as in addition to everything else, is like you got to win at the starting point of the argument, meaning
Yeah.
the framing. It's not about big government versus small government. It's about efficient versus wasteful government.
Yes.
Okay? So as
Yeah.
soon as you give in to this Bill Clinton bullshit of the era of big government is over,
Yeah.
it's like, hey, Reagan people, please vote for me. It's not too late to get those neocons, the
Yeah.
reliable voters. It all comes back to working backwards and targeting people who will traditionally, reliably vote.
Yeah.
The political strategies are based on those voters. They are not based on first time and new voters.
Yeah. That's actually good. Like that's a good like I guess counterpoint to what a lot of these conservatives have been fed for years and years and years. Oh, we don't want big government. Blah blah blah. Like we don't want government to have power. It's like it's not about that. It's not big government versus small government. It's about efficient government versus wasteful government. Because like there's always going to be government. Like in America specifically, that's just not going away. So
Well,
it's
something that
about
you can get California, something that, hold on one second, is one
yeah,
thing that you
yeah,
can get California conservatives on that I had recently is you can get them, like, you got to do baby steps. And one of the baby steps that you can get at least a California conservative on board is there are certain things that the government must do,
yeah. I remember us
right?
when we were talking about
Yes.
this.
You
Yeah,
would you would probably get a yes to that.
yeah,
Second question. There are a lot of things the government must do and do well. So let's
yes,
put people who believe in government in positions of power
yeah,
instead of people who don't believe in government
yeah.
and want to continue to complain. Like you can
Mhm.
get down into the you can get to the psychobabble all you want, narcissistic personality
Oh
disorder.
yeah,
Okay, there some of them, whatever. You can get into all those diagnoses, family intergenerational trauma. Okay, yada yada yada. The symptom that you can't get conservatives away from. Okay, all conservatives is they love to complain.
mhm. Yeah,
But they never complain about American, like, hate American culture, like the negative parts of American culture. Like they always want to put up the billionaires as the heroes. It's so weird. They complain
yeah,
about the wrong things, is my point. Complaining
yeah,
can be useful. Complaining can be useful,
yeah,
but it's not
yeah.
in this context.
And like I even like try to argue because I I've infiltrated some Facebook groups against my better judgment, against the you know what's good for my mental health and whatnot. And arguing with some of them, it's like, well, you elect Republicans, and ultimately, like what you get is a stripping away of bureaucracy or like the efficiency of government to tackle certain issues that the government is not only historically known for handling, but has handled most efficiently. It's like you can't pass off a lot of government uh, uh, bureaucracy to private entities and whatnot, because it just becomes a profit machine um, that only serves to enrich a small handful of people. The prison industry, the prison industrial complex is a perfect example. A lot of prisons end up getting privatized, and next thing you know, you have a justice system that's slanted, and you're trying to
Oh
get
God, we should definitely talk
yeah
about the justice system.
yeah,
Oh my God.
like people like end
Huh.
up getting
What
thrown
a
in jail for
disgrace.
much longer than they're supposed to, or get framed, or have jail sentences that are way too long, or what have you. And the longer people are in jail, the more they make money. No, that's something that the government should have a whole lot more power in doing. And a lot of these conservatives don't really tend to understand that, like, if you elect people that don't believe in government, who advocate for smaller government, they're not going to get in there to fix these programs, or the social safety nets, or what have you. They're going to get in there to defund them, and all of a sudden you have just worsening economic and social issues, and then they can turn around and see and post hoc justify, like, oh well, you see, like, these programs aren't working.
Right.
Obviously, it's like, well,
Right.
no shit, you're
It's a
you're
self-fulfilling
defunding.
prophecy.
Exactly. It's like they don't see that they don't see that happening, like, right in front of them. Like, they don't pay attention to voting records. They don't pay attention to who's funding who. They don't care. They just want to complain. They literally just want to complain.
They just want to complain. And that's the thing that you can, I think, simplify because it's all about simplicity. Remember, simplicity is the essence of genius. Oversimplicity is the death of progress. So it's a
Yeah.
balancing act in terms of the way you present your arguments. But I do think that's a good, simple way to kind of be like, you don't need to be Trump trash, okay? All they do is complain.
Yeah.
It's all fear all the time.
Yep.
It's, like you don't need to do it, conservatives. It's okay to come over to the Democrats. Now, the Democrats obviously are not doing that very well.
Yeah.
They're obviously not doing that very well. And, I don't blame them because the right is fighting so much right now that it's kind of like just let them fight and kind of
Oh
keep the
yeah.
ship keep the ship on autopilot. Like, why take the risk?
Right.
I mean, the stakes of these political games are so high that especially the left is afraid of taking what at least is perceived as an unnecessary risk. They're worried about making a mistake much more so than the right.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately.
um, but and yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, God for they just incrementalism, like this baby steps idea to change, is just that's the way it goes. Like that's what they think is going on. I'm gonna try and find. I don't know if I can get it because, man, I don't think I can do it because it's on. I'll try to find it. There was this some interesting um, thing on. See if I can find it. I can't
Like a
remember the
like
guy.
a
Anyway, it was about the generations. He was talking about young people. Morning Joe, young people enraged. It was like this really interesting. Yes, here we go. Okay, we're gonna do this. Yeah, here we go. Here we go. We're gonna do this.
Cool.
This is good stuff. Share screen. Um, let's get that magnified. Young people. Here we go. All right. My favorite, the neo libs. I watch this every day, at least a part of it,
Yeah.
because I want to know where the neoliberal base is at.
Right.
Because my attitude is that we have two types of people ideologically to have to work with if progressivism is going to stand a chance. One is the apathetic, the young voter that doesn't vote, too busy, too cool, whatever. Okay, we know that. We know the youth vote is the key to breaking history.
Yeah.
The other side of it, though, that is more easily reasoned as to how to approach them is the neoliberal incrementalist.
Yeah.
But you're gonna see. I'm interested to see how much they cover of this guy because he said a lot of stuff about Israel Gaza that I disagreed with.
Oh,
He's
really?
an he's NYU Business School professor of marketing, and yeah, he's definitely a smart guy. I don't let's not he wrote a book. Anytime someone's on there to push a book, it's like okay,
Yeah.
you know, we'll see. They do have a Vanderbilt guy on there, an historian that I went to Vandy, so I'm pretty proud of that when you go on John Meacham. But anyway, let's hear this.
Let's get into your book, but first, run through, if you will. I've seen you talk about this in speeches. Talk about how the system is rigged. So if you got $1 million, great. If you got 5 million, 10 million, even better. Life gets easier because the way our tax system's set up. Yeah.
All of this is going to come across to the normie as very. Hold on. Do you need to go out?
It's very
Oh
bougie,
God.
like very
All of
bourgeois.
now, all of this is going. Okay, so all the analysis that you're about to hear is going to be presented as if it is sophisticated analysis. All he is using is the idea of exponential growth
Right.
and the difference between income taxes and capital gains taxes. Again,
Right.
as we've talked about with taxes, the money doesn't get taxed if it doesn't move.
Right. That's exact.
So we
Yep.
have to talk, if we're going to talk about tax reform in an effective way, we got to talk about how to, we have to tap into people's investment money.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
income and then there's investment money,
Yep.
right? Like I say in the class conversation. Okay, there's the working class. Working class is like okay, well, if there's the working class, what's the other? There's the lower class, the poor, whatever you want to call them. I don't know, the politically sensitive
Yeah.
term for it, but they're economically screwed over. Okay, and then you got the one percenters and the 0.1 percenters inside of that. We've talked about that kind of
Yeah.
stratosphere within the Mount Olympus
Oh, yeah.
thing,
So,
right? And so all, but the idea that like just listen to what he has to say because it's nothing more than money grows exponentially. Just focus harder on saving when you're young so that when you're in your 40s or 50s, you have a lot of money. Listen to this.
We have a very progressive tax system until you get to about the 99th percent. And essentially, the people who get most damaged by our current tax code, it's lower and middle income households, their taxes have gone up slightly because of consumption, but not because of federal. The people that really get hurt are what I call the workhorses. And that are people who make an exceptionally good living, but it's all current income. And they live in a blue state. They might be paying 50 to 54% tax rate. I bet some of those people are on around this table right now. But if you can make the
oh,
jump to
so
light
they
speed
have it
and
the worst,
invest
huh?
in assets, stocks, housing, then your tax rate plummets. So in America, we've decided to try and create a super class of billionaires. And then if they win the gold medal, we're going to give them the silver and the bronze. Two biggest tax deductions, capital gains and mortgage interest. Who owns homes and stocks? People my age. Who doesn't know? Who rents and makes their money from current income?
Boomers, 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 boomers.
Young people. So we've decided that the wealthiest people in the world should get exceptionally more wealth.
We didn't decide anything. I hate
Yeah.
that freaking wording.
No.
Well, we've decided it's a reflection of who we are as people. It's everybody's fault. No, it's the people in charge's fault.
It's the
It's the
people with
people
the
in
money.
charge's fault.
Yeah. Literally.
Well, and it's a certain voting bloc that has overtaken and defined American
Of
politics
course.
since the 1980s.
Yeah.
So let's get real about that. And let's
Yeah.
get to know them. Let's get to know their story. The baby boomer part of American history has now become the most important part of understanding America today. So if you're
Yes.
going to focus on any one like generational experience to explain the way the world is today, check out the baby boomers. Start there. It's like if you
Yep.
want to understand the religious right, just research Billy Graham and then go from there, spider web off of that, and you'll find out everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Minimum wage stuck at 9.25. Stock market is screamed up. The average
It's actually 7.25.
70-year-old is 72% wealthier than the world.
Like
What do you say?
he said the minimum wage is stuck at 9.25. No, it's stuck at 7.25, bud. It's
Well, it
still
depends on what state you're in, right?
yeah. I mean, I'm sure. I'm not even sure like what because I don't know where Morning Joe is even filmed or where this guy is
New
even
York.
from. Like, if the minimum wage in New York is 9.25, I'd be fucking shocked. But I think he was talking about the federal minimum wage, and that's even lower.
Or 40 years ago, the average person under the age of 40 is 24% less wealthy. We are purposely transferring more wealth from the poor and middle class to the upper class to the super rich, and from young to old.
Yeah,
And you
where's the
say in
outrage
the
about that,
book,
bud?
which is true and
So
alarming, but
where's
at
the like?
30,
Here's the go. Here's the go. We are or we like. It's just that's the way it is now.
Mm-hmm.
How did it get
Yeah.
that way?
Yes.
Like, listen to see if they ever make that transition in the discussion.
let's say a 30-year-old American in America right now is doing no better than his or her parents, then that's a new thing in American history that you would think over time, we want to do better than the next generation, than the last generation. It's not happening anymore.
Right.
I think it all ties into what we're talking about on campuses. For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating.
Oh, believe me, they're
the
having
pool of
sex, but
emotionally
they're
and
just
economically
not
viable
having
men
kids.
shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. They look up, they see wealth, exceptional wealth across my generation and people in certain industries, and they are really struggling. Their purchasing power is going down, and the incumbents create artificial scarcity on campus. We take pride in rejecting 90% of our applicants, so the incumbents who already have a degree see the degree go up in value. We get very concerned with housing and traffic once we own the housing. Housing permits are sequestered from young people. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up, because if 1 million people dying would be bad, it would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them, and then every day it is speedballed in their face.
Where's the word? Where's the word? Boomer. Where the hell is it? Their parents. Who are their parents?
Yeah.
Boomers.
That they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost.
He's not talking about your generation as much as he's talking about mine. I mean, I know you're a young
Right, of
millennial,
course.
elder,
Yeah.
Gen Z or whatever,
Yeah.
but he's talking more about millennials, people who should be in their mid 30s, approaching 40, and be like, okay, because really, when your peak earning years, they say, are in your 40s. That's when you start to make real money and put away for retirement. What are you doing, Skipper? My dog is going nuts here. Hold on. So
Thunder
anyway,
Thunderbird.
all he's talking about is save. All he's talking about is a traditional way of working through an economy that doesn't exist anymore. This
Yeah.
economy he's describing of like, watch what he does in terms of the advice.
The script. Our kids are more anxious, and more depressed, and more obese, and more addicted, and we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
So, Scott, what the social element of that, that's the economic element, the social elements that you mentioned, the happiness, the anxiety, all of those things, that kids aren't getting together anymore, that they're not having kids. What happened in one generation? Social media has to play a role in it, I'm sure.
No,
But
no.
what else do you see
I mean,
that has created this
a par-
climate for this
par role.
Here
generation?
we go. What's the answer?
I think you have the most talented, well-resourced people in the world and companies trying to convince a young man that he can have a reasonable facsimile of life in his basement behind a screen. You don't need friends. Go on Reddit or Discord. You
Oh, it's technology's fault. Hold on. Let's let him have a chance.
don't need to get a job. Go on Robinhood or Coinbase and trade crypto and stocks.
No,
You
not
don't need
not
to go
not.
through the rejection and the
So no, no, no. Let's just try. Let me track this. Let me track this. Bear with me. Let me. I'm good at this. Okay, we're just tracking context. So he's making a contextual argument.
Uh,
He's saying the world has changed. He's still saying it's not their fault, but he's saying the world has changed because that's the whole thing. Is they're trying. You realize what they're trying to do? They're trying to make Morning Joe more friendly to my category, which is like the
right.
elder millennials,
Yeah.
and so that's what they're trying to do here.
Right.
And my whole thing is, are they ever going to use the word boomer?
Mhm.
And are they ever going to use the word blame? Probably not. And because he says why, they ask the big question. I mean, that's the thing that liberals you can count on that you can't count on with conservatives is liberals do understand the basic intellectual engine for social progress is asking the question why. Why is
Yeah.
this way?
Yep.
And he is providing contextual variables
Yeah.
as the saying he's still saying it's not their fault, but he's saying social media and he's actually kind of taking a shot at us for doing this kind of thing
Yeah.
and thinking that we can get online and just get internet famous and that can become a career because that's what
God.
Sam Cedar did. Well, Sam Cedar's been at it for 20 years,
Yeah.
20 like 4 years or something.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, this is just
So
another
I'd be
contextual
lucky. I'd be
variable.
lucky to have that kind of thing. I'd be lucky to have that kind of career
Yeah.
at doing this. So this guy, do you want to keep watching? You got something to say?
Oh no, that I'd love to see how he finishes off doing it.
expense and the humiliation and working out and having a plan and humor and showering to get a romantic relationship, you have you porn. So we have an entire generation, especially of young
Oh
men,
God.
who are
Okay,
out home
okay, okay. Hold on. I'm
sequestering
gonna make
from
a point here.
society.
Okay, I'm sorry. I am sorry, and I have a lot more credibility on this issue when I have a full beard. But if like when you start talking about sex, I don't think their generation can in any way, shape, or form empathize with our understanding of sex simply because of internet porn.
Right.
And they're always going to judge that as extreme
Of
compared to
course.
what they grew up with.
Yeah.
But actually, I believe I look, internet porn's a dark part of the world, don't
Sure.
get me wrong.
Sure.
Okay? Don't get me wrong. Like, we're not going to talk too much about this, but I do believe that there is some teaching taking place but for some people
Oh
when
yeah.
they're watching that porn. For example, like if you did a poll and you did just a very basic amount of research, 'cause
Yeah.
I did this not too long ago. I was talking to my wife about it, and most women, you're talking 80, 90%, okay,
Mhm.
want to be dominated during sex.
Mhm.
Okay? That is their preference. That is what they want. They want to it's like I don't know what it's like,
Right.
but that's been my experience as like that's what women want for the most part.
Right.
Every now and then there's an exception, whatever, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into it any more than that. I'm just
Sure.
going to say that like there is a sense of it seems to me that women want to in a very beautiful way
Yeah.
feel out of control,
Yes.
feel like powerless, and like trust someone. Now, is this guy, just by looking at him, and sorry to judge a book by his cover, but I don't think it's unreasonable in this situation when you get into this topic,
Mhm.
okay? Is this guy having any credibility on the topic of sex?
I don't think so.
No. You know who actually, every
Especially.
single person at the desk, especially Mika Brzezinski, because she's got that like big blonde thing going on,
Mhm.
only, they are more qualified to talk about sex.
Yeah.
Like, does this guy know the difference between sex and fucking? Probably doesn't. Or I should say fucking and making love. I have a cliche about that, but
Sure.
I'm going to hold on to that because
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know what our audience looks like yet, and I don't want to get too ambitious with my sex commentary. But let me hear what you have to say before we continue with this. It's a very conflicted character, this guy,
No,
because
well,
on the one hand, I know he's smart. I know he did a lot of digging, but I'm sorry, like this man has not had the life experiences necessary to empathize with the millennial generation.
yeah. So like, ultimately, like what the point I want to make is like, there is such a generational disconnect, like on so many levels, but even at like a sex based one as well. Because one of my favorite memes I saw recently was it used like
Keep
but
talking. I'm listening. I'm just looking for the dog.
I'm just trying to like remember exactly what it said. I think it says something along the lines of men behaved a lot better when it was much harder to see titties. And like just that alone speaks to how like just the abundance of access, that plays a whole that also plays a big role in the difference between the older generation and the younger generation, because I mean the internet in general, like a lot of the older generations like just didn't have access to you could literally look up anything and you could like find it immediately, whereas like
Yeah.
it that luxury wasn't afforded to people that like this guy's age and whatnot. So that I think that definitely plays a big role. And you started this stream talking about how what plays into the fact that like so many leftists are super
Yeah.
sad, super depressed,
White
and
men, white
yeah,
men, white male leftists,
white male
especially
leftists.
white. I don't know if there's a difference between white liberals or white progressives in that study, but
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, but
not
either way,
enough people. I mean, that's where the conversation starts for the progressive movement is just separating from the liberals. Like normies don't know the difference between liberal and progressive. They don't even
yeah.
know
Oh
what
my God,
neoliberalism is. They still worship at the altar of Obama
you don't know how
because
many.
that's the
Yeah,
nice guy. That's the nice guy. That's the figurehead.
you know how many times
I
I
mean,
encounter like conservatives that literally conflate liberalism with communism all the
right.
time, or
Or just Marxism.
or Demo-
Marxism
or
is my
Demo-
favorite.
or Democrats with leftism. It's like, no, no, what are you talking about? But like I do want to hear what this guy says, but like a lot of white male leftists, like depression and whatnot, can really just be summarized by the fact that uh, if you're a leftist, like you want to see the world do better. You want to see a lot of fundamental change that uplifts the most disadvantaged. You have a lot of empathy. You see the wrong, you see the injustices in the world, and you want that to be remedied. You want that to be alleviated. And so, if you, I feel like a lot of people my age, a lot of young white male leftists, let that get to them, like and so like it's easy to become so disheartened and depressed by
It's
it all.
despair.
But
Yeah, it's
yeah,
despair.
it's literally just despair, because like there's only so much that one individual person can do, and
Well,
it's easy to let it affect you. And it's, I mean, shit, the same thing. I pretty much fit that camp. I mean, especially in my younger years when I was like learning more and more about the way the world worked, and more and more about politics and the way everything functions, and how shitty and vicious the world actually is. Like a lot of it really is just despair, and it's just helplessness, and like what's the word, uh feeling small, feeling inadequate.
insignificant,
Yes,
worthless, useless. I
insignificant.
think
Yeah,
useless is the biggest insult for someone in a capitalist society or in any productive society.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So I just tripped over another, you always pay attention to that thing if you just find it useful to like when you trip up on that because
Hmm.
um, it's not that capitalist society is inherently more useful than a socialist society. A socialist society could be realized. We've never actually tried socialism in the right way. Like
Right.
there are I mean, we have certain social programs like Social Security, for
Of
example,
course.
is socialism. That's the best way to counterpoint anybody to say, oh, what are you and the funniest thing is when they say
Right.
Marxism.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, dude, Marxism isn't a political structure. It's a political ideology, but it's not a political structure. Socialism is a political structure. There are
Yeah.
different forms of political structure than just socialism and capitalism. This form of capitalism, where tax cuts yield economic growth,
Yeah.
okay, that is flawed.
Mhm.
Like, that's the simplicity is essence of genius analysis
Yeah.
when it comes to like you have been getting robbed by Reaganomics since the 1980s, and it's only gotten harder. So this guy, like, I'll be interested to see, like,
Bingo.
does he understand? Does he say the boomers? Does he say the baby boomer conservatives? Because that's who it
Because
is.
he's missing.
You know, I mean
He's
the
leaving out quite a lot so far.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
Well, he wants people to buy the book, but
Exact. Yeah. Of course.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, let's finish it up. He's almost done.
And missing out on what it means. There's a reason romantic comedies are 2 hours and not 15 minutes. True victory in life is hard. Going out, meeting someone, finding mentors, finding mates, that stuff is hard, but that's what real victory in real life is
No.
like. And
No.
because a
It
lot of men
costs
feel rejected on dating apps, the
money.
number of jobs that are accessible to them has gone down. You have essentially a group of men who are saying, I want a low risk entry into life, and they go down a rabbit hole. When they don't have social.
Whoa. Hold on a second. I want a low risk entry into life? Who the fuck said that? Who
Uh.
said, are you kidding me? Do you think millennials are low risk people, dude? Look at crypto. Of course they're like, they love risk.
Yeah, that oh my like how can he in
Like,
one
what
breath
are you
like go on and
talking
on
about?
about like the fact that young people want to like go on Robinhood or invest in stocks or invest in crypto or whatever. But then also say that like young people are also low risk, like they don't want to take any risk. Like you're speaking
Yeah,
out of
so
both
here's
sides of your mouth, dude.
two things about this. This is where I remember. I'm glad I brought this up because I remember there
Hmm.
was something that felt really off about this analysis. Um, by low risk entry into life, I think he means easy.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's the subtle thing of like stop complaining. So they're kind of
yeah.
appealing to the millennials who are on their way
Hmm.
to becoming, let's face it, a millionaire. You know, that's what it's all about is getting to that
Yeah.
$1 million mark. Or at least 100 grand, and then you can grow exponentially and so forth. And you can start investing and then having it just sit there and grow. He's going to talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
he talks about contextual variables like distractions, but he's acting like that other part that he said about going out and finding mentors and mates is hard. I'm like, maybe for you, man. Like, I'm I'm pretty good at, I mean, when I want to connect with anybody, I can connect with anybody
Yeah,
because,
yeah.
I mean, partly because I came from the opposite side of the spectrum and moved all this way over, but and I don't mean to sound like I'm the most charismatic guy in the world or anything like that, but I'd like to think I can listen, ask good questions. If you're a good question asker, you can have a good conversation with anybody because the
Yeah.
hardest people to have conversations with are narcissists.
Yes.
And if you just feed them with questions, they'll just keep talking. It's the only
Yeah.
way to have a conversation with them. So,
Yeah,
unless you want to just get into a yelling contest, and
of course.
sometimes a yelling contest is called for, I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
Sometimes you just gotta go Hollywood with it.
Yeah,
But what do you gotta say?
he's like for one, he's stuck in a bubble. The like his scope of what he considers to be young people at large in general seems to be very limited. He also seems to be um I think he's mostly referring to like young people who are slightly more well off that actually do have the means to invest in whatnot, or take gambles on Bitcoin and whatnot. Because if you are primarily focused on trying to get a leg up in life and trying to like actually have some upward mobility, but you're taking like these big substantial risks to do so, and like this is like what your main focus, your main drive and whatnot. Yeah, socializing and meeting girls, like meeting
What do we talk about
partners,
at the beginning? What do we talk about
it,
at the beginning?
like having
Millennials
kids.
love to travel. We
hmm
love to travel.
Like they're not going to be
Everybody
focusing
loves
on
to travel
that.
now because of so. I mean, you want to talk about. I mean, so there's the insight. Yeah, social media has made it so that you have fantasies
Yes.
about traveling to all these places
Yeah.
because millennials are by nature and actually by nurture explorers. Millennials are higher percentage of millennials are explorers than survivors compared with boomers.
Yeah, and social
Okay?
media acts as like a
Makes you
minuscule like
think you can go to all of them. I
yeah,
want to go to
yeah.
like 200. I want to go to
It,
200 places.
it
Like I want
it's
to go to all of them. I can't afford to go to, more than a couple of them, you know?
it gives you some sense of fulfillment, even if it's fleeting, and if it's like uh it's surface level and not completely it's not even real in a sense, but it's like it's just another dopamine hit, honestly. Like it is a way to socialize and whatnot, but like when it comes to what he's referring to, like yeah, it has its limits.
Connections, and they don't get out, and they don't have the prospect of a romantic relationship. They're more prone to conspiracy theory. They're more prone to misogynistic content. They're less likely to believe in climate change, and some become really bad citizens. We are producing too many of the most dangerous person in the world, and that is a young, broke, and lonely young man. Why is it?
I don't necessarily
Just
disagree with
so there,
that, but
yeah, no, but there you go. Well, what's the next step? This guy like he like flirts with insight is kind of my point. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's just a big tease, and he declares all these conclusions in his book. But I'd be
right,
like, so you're talking about school shooters and like concert shooters, like the guy in Vegas, like that? Is that who you're talking about?
right,
Are we afraid of that conversation?
yeah,
Are we afraid of like encouraging people to do that?
yeah,
And let's not use their names. Like we shouldn't
right,
use their
and
names. We
it's
should just
like.
use the locations where they took, like Uvalde. Like, is
hmm
that what you're talking about, dude?
Yeah, it's like
Use because if
how
you like have the balls to say that if that's what you're talking about.
how deep do these very serious conversations actually go, and like do they actually get expanded upon to where like, oh well, here's how we address it, here's actually how we solve it, and this is exactly how people end up like this, and here's how we can prevent it, and like this is what we can do to actually mitigate it. Because like if you're actually serious about this, it is going to take a lot of not only this is one of those issues where like it's like um it can't really it probably can't be addressed from bottom up. It has to be like more of a top down thing. Like identify the issue, mitigate it before it gets out of hand. It's going to take a lot, and if you like you're not willing to like, expand like to the deepest crevices of this conversation that you're starting, then it's like what's the point? You're just filling the room with hot air.
So I invoked my eighth Dieter decree earlier about simplicity is the essence of genius, but oversimplification is the death of progress. And now
Yeah.
I will invoke my Dieter decree number six. When examining a public problem, examine the entire problem, not just the parts that want to see, because the parts you don't want to see merit society's attention much more so than their easy bias confirming counterparts.
Man, your decree is hard.
Um,
I'm just like, whew.
yeah, the decrees. Well, so I
I
mean, it's
love
just
it.
the all the point I'm making there though is the superficial analysis. Like, okay, these are
Yeah,
all
it obviously
symptoms.
it
These
happens
are all
often
symptoms.
enough.
If you want to use a medical analogy, what's the fucking disease? And he's alluding to it. He's copping out by saying it's like new social media technology, and it's not true, man.
This has been
Like,
a
why
this
is
around.
he talking about my generation and
Yeah,
what we struggle with?
yeah,
Why aren't they talking to someone from my background? Why aren't they talking about a guy who just turned 40?
hmm
and like, I'm doing okay, but I'm not, am I where I want to be financially? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And has there been a lot of hindrances that, had to do with baby boomer conservative policies?
Right.
Absolutely. Healthcare being the easiest one, dude.
Yeah.
Healthcare is taken up. I mean, in my burn rate, my monthly before like food and stuff, I'd say healthcare's taken up 25%. Like it's a little less than half my rent is healthcare. I'll put
Jesus
it to you that way.
Christ.
It's a little less than half my rent. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, beyond insane.
That so many of these young people that you're talking about seem to head into life after going to 4-year schools or 2-year schools or whatever, head into life with a lack of financial literacy. They don't know anything about money or the growth of money. All they know is the absence of money.
I think we need to have in our curriculums in high school a class on adulting.
This is what I was talking about earlier with revolutionizing education once you hit puberty, a puberty-based education system where you play to people's strengths and you figure out 3 to 5 different career paths and they can go and take the personality test if they feel like their views have changed. But it's not hard based on academic performance, personality type, and socioeconomic background to give someone 3 to 5 career paths that if they just work hard, they will be successful. He's about to say something about talent and passion that I think is very interesting.
My kid, I see it in my house. My kid can do integers and basic calculus, but he doesn't understand the interest on his credit card. So there's just some basic kind of financial literacy that we're not teaching. And when you start replacing civics with computer science, you lose a sense of the country and you start learning about programming. And when you don't talk about basic financial literacy or even mating, I would like to see in the senior year of college mating dynamics and help men understand and women what is unique to them and their vulnerabilities to social media. I was talking about the challenges of men from social media. At exactly the wrong time in a young girl's life, she is presented with a valuation where she never gets to leave the high school cafeteria 24/7. And as my colleague Jonathan Haidt has pointed out, we've seen a dramatic uptick in suicide. But I think effectively we just don't have basic skills for young people. We're
I cannot argue with his rhetorical competence. He is very well spoken.
Yeah,
He is very on point with his
he
points.
does have that going
And
for him.
he scores a lot of points, very professional. This reminds me a lot of very good management consultants. This is the way that they talk.
teaching them advanced things, but we're not teaching them the basics around what a mortgage is, what interest rates mean. So I think we could use just a basic class on adulting, junior or senior year.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved.
God, jump scare.
So later on, they didn't show it. They didn't show it, but he goes into talking about pursuing talent, not passion. And what I would rephrase that is, do you mean develop talent, but don't pursue passion? Because anything you do in this society now, because of population numbers and there's just a lower supply of jobs and a greater demand for them, good jobs anyway, right? Everything's harder.
Yeah.
So it's better to plug someone in to what they're actually passionate about because they're only going to be able to do it well enough for it to provide for themselves and give them the opportunity to have a family if they have the energy to do it every day. And
Yeah.
if they're not passionate about it, they're not going to have that energy.
No kidding.
This is like the still out of touch boomer shit.
Right.
That's what it feels like to me. The reason why he kept saying we've done this, we've done this, we've done this. It's like, so you're a boomer, right? I mean, based on his age, like he's obviously a boomer. Like, so it's kind of like it's that neoliberal boomer reaching out and be like, oh, yeah, we really fucked up, but yeah, what are we gonna? It's kind of what are we gonna do about social media? Oh, it's been TikTok. What's the answer? What's the solution? And he's like, the best he comes up with is a class on adulting junior year, senior year, and it's like, no, dude, we need a complete overhaul of education. We need a complete overhaul of our society as we know it.
Yeah.
These problems have reached critical mass. January 6th was supposed to be a fucking wake up call for
Yeah.
people who are unaware of the deep, dark GOP.
Mhm.
Okay? The people that did not understand the heart and soul of the GOP were supposed to see it on January 6th, 2021.
Yeah.
And so many people have turned a blind eye to the events of that day. And I see, and it's not just racial, it's not just white people. Like, I see a lot of young kids, like, with YouTube channels watching this stuff about January 6th denial, and they're believing it.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. It's fucking terrorism.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's like guys like this cannot negate the threat of the GOP and the conservative media apparatus, because the power that it has over discourse and just rhetoric in general, and how pervasive it is online, and how it infiltrates the minds of a lot of young people to where it's corrupting, and it it causes a lot of people to even just second guess their own feelings, their own the very things that they've learned about, like uh, learned about things and whatnot. So leaving that out, and not only that, but like stopping short of criticizing capitalism and its vicious nature and the profit motive, like dog eat dog, winner takes all. That is like the most pervasive element of the capitalistic society, and of course he's not going to talk about how mentally damaging that is to vulnerable young people who see it for what it is. He's not going to talk about how uh, it destroys lives if you don't have the means to get a leg up, or if you're at a disadvantage. It's he's like you might as well just not saying anything at all. It's like you're just doing a disservice to people who are looking um, for an edge to actually mitigate their struggles. That's probably the main thing that frustrates me is negating the threat of the GOP and the conservative media outrage machine, and just how capitalism has abandoned basically everybody under 40.
Yeah, I would say 43 or younger now,
Yeah.
actually. Um, yeah, I think if you want to use the bookmark of 9/11, I was a senior in high school. So I think if you were a senior in college, that should be the bookmark, whatever that is. I think it's 1980.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was 84. So anybody born after 1980 or after is getting absolutely screwed.
Absolutely. I mean, and it also checks out too, because like right around then is when Reagan took office.
Yeah.
Then we
Yeah, and you're making a good point about him coming just shy of criticizing capitalism, because once again, we say, oh, it's capitalism or nothing, instead of, no, what is this version of capitalism? What is the America in the 2020s version of capitalism? Why are we dealing with these ancient problems
yeah.
that, yeah, sorry, call me entitled. I was told when I was a kid these would be solved by now. A lot of them. A lot of them. It's like you've had time, you've had plenty of economic recoveries to use to invest in certain problem solving apparatuses, and instead you spent more money on the military, you hooked yourselves up with tax cuts, you hooked corporations up with tax cuts, and you villainized immigrants and said everything was all about the southern border, and that's the big problem with America is the southern border. Give me a goddamn break.
No,
You know,
I'm so tired of hearing about the border. I'm so tired about it.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
well,
another.
dude, California. It's like you probably hear about it all the time in your
Of
part of
course,
California.
I'm.
Yeah,
It's like it's just another scapegoat, um, that the conservative media apparatus only exacerbates to fearmonger over, um, so that way their base, the Republican base, has someone to look down on, someone to be
yeah.
afraid of,
There's
someone
the
to
Lyndon
scapegoat.
Johnson quote. Yeah,
Someone to other, someone to like, it's
it's the politics of blame. It's
yeah.
and it works really well. And
They'd
look,
rather
it is the
blame,
seeds of it is the what Hitler used.
yeah,
It's not your fault that your life sucks. It's the corrupt politicians who I need to overthrow to have power. And then obviously for marketing, it's the Jews.
yeah.
And he did it. It worked.
He,
Like he successfully, like through the, it was a grassroots effort. He got started was just going around to beer halls and talking and just
yeah,
talking and talking and talking at beer halls like every night for like, I don't know, years.
yeah,
And then he got arrested and then he got famous or whatever,
yeah,
yada, yada, yada. Like, let's learn from it. And we gotta, I was really reluctant to make the Nazis comparison
I think,
for a while there, and it's just unavoidable now. It's
yeah.
just, it's just straight up unavoidable.
Screw Godwin's law. Like it's pervasive. Yeah, it's
Godwin's law, what's that?
oh uh, in layman's terms, if I might be butchering this, but
I'll
basically
look it up.
any conversation about political uh um uh I guess about politics and uh
As an online discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
it
like,
grows and
no, you
grows.
know what that's
Yeah.
exactly like? That's exactly like Trump derangement syndrome,
Mhm.
which they used to say, oh, Trump's driving him crazy. He's like, yeah. And here, let's get back to why are straight, white, educated lefties the most depressed people in American society? Two reasons. One, as a member of this group, because of your education how messed up the world is,
Mhm.
how much
Yep.
further along we could be in solving these problems.
Yes.
I just turned
Exactly.
40. Everything that was bad when I was 30 has gotten worse. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's one thing is we know because of our educations and now because of our life experience that the world is actually kind of a dark place, even if you live in America.
Yeah.
Even if you live in America. All right? And we're educated, so we think about people who are less fortunate than us, and we actually are empathetic to different socioeconomic and ethnic groups and so forth. Now, that's number one. All right? So we know how unfair American society is, we know how much better it could be, and we know why. When we were, not everybody would use my baby boomer conservative simplicity, but they would, if they listen to my future episodes, they will agree with that analysis.
Yeah.
The second big reason why the white lefties, the educated white lefties, are males, are super depressed, is because unlike the females in the same category, okay, we're arrogant, call us entitled enough to think we can do something about it.
Yeah.
And now we're forced with the truth that this next generation of politicians that should have arrived by now, that Bernie should have really set up in motion to kind of be like, okay, Pelosi, Schumer, you had your time. Now time for new leadership. Okay? That should have been the Bernie deal. That
Yeah.
should have been Bernie's like quest. He's like, I'm not going to be president, but I can set up the next generation. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that. Not well enough. I mean, what has he got? AOC? Come on. Come on, that's
Right.
not good enough. Not good
Yeah.
enough. And so I think it's a combination of knowing how bad things are in comparison to how they could be, how we made some really big decisions differently, and then thinking that we could have done something about it or can do something about it. We think just through the power of our persuasion as straight white educated lefty men that we can actually change people's minds and that we should be allowed to change people's minds.
Yeah.
And that's the illusion of power. That's the illusion of that is powerlessness. It's the illusion of influence.
Yeah.
But it's not there anymore. It's
Right.
not there anymore because people are just gonna feed their narcissism, man. Narcissism is on the rise.
Oh, big time.
Like if he wanted to see, that's the big word. If he wanted to criticize our generation, it should be along the lines of like in more specificity, right? Where it's like they're more narcissistic, not necessarily like narcissistic personality disorder, but they are more image conscious, and it's not their fault because of social media,
Right.
okay? So they are more prone to spend their money in their 20s on traveling and going to concerts and stuff like that instead of doing what they should do, which is save until they get to 100 grand and then invest. And then my understanding is that once you have 100 grand and you can just throw it all into investments and just sit on that for years, then that'll grow into $1 million in like 7 years. And then once you're at 1 million, as long as you don't burn too much in your life and you still have regular income, you should be pretty comfortable by the time you retire. But life shouldn't be like that.
No
It
kidding.
shouldn't, that's not, it shouldn't be like a code that we're trying to crack. Oh,
Yeah.
how do we survive this game? I don't want to live my
No.
life in a game.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
live my life in a game. If you want to make it a war, then that's cool. I'm down to fight a war at this point
Right.
because I fit into this profile. I'm just speaking from personal experience.
Yeah.
I'm saying like if that's true, if that analysis is true, that the straight white educated lefty millennial
Hmm.
is the most frustrated and angry and lonely category of human being in America today, okay? That I do fit that category, and I'm telling you that's why.
Yeah.
That's why. It's because and now the next step, the second step of analysis, what I'm trying to do with my YouTube channel is get people to realize whose fault it was.
Yes.
Let's figure out whose fault it was.
Yeah.
Because it's someone's fault. I say, blame has its place,
Yeah.
right? When the Springfield power plant, nuclear power plant has safety issues, they blame Homer Simpson and fire him and replace him with someone, and then the issues get solved. Okay? So it all started with blaming. It's problem identification. The problem is baby boomer conservatism.
Yes.
Tax cuts, and more tax cuts. That's how you get this economy going. Trickle down economics.
God.
Foreign interventionism. Because these governments and societies don't deserve the opportunity to lead themselves. We need to tell them what to do. And if they're not willing to listen, we'll simply intimidate them, whether it be through economics or our military.
Yeah. So Thunderbird,
Oh, good.
he,
You got some love?
yeah, he says this is in reference to our conversation earlier about the efficiency of government versus privatization and whatnot. He
Right,
says,
big, small, yeah.
yeah, all property is property of the public. Thanks for waiting, by the way, Thunderbird. All property is property of the public, who by their laws have created it, and who may therefore by other laws dispose of it whenever the welfare of the public shall demand. Benjamin Franklin.
Ah,
Yeah,
good quote.
yeah,
Get your quotes, lefties.
yeah,
Get your quotes. Get your quotes. They're
yeah,
useful. They're not like, again, it's like you got to have the arrows in your quiver if you're going to go out there and try to support the cause.
yeah. And,
And if
I like what you said about like lots of leftists, they can't shy away from debate, and they can't shy away from I guess the smears or dismissals
the
lobbied at them by
dismissiveness, that's the what comes
yeah,
to,
yeah.
oh, you're just a softy progressive. You're just a liberal,
Oh, you
softy,
have
that kind of thing.
You have Trump derangement syndrome. It's like, yeah, like what the hell do you think, dude? Like, do you understand why you think that is? Have you given any thought to that whatsoever? Like, yeah.
Right.
Anyway, Thunderbird also says robots will dominate the talent pool, taking the high-paying jobs where they will be more cost effective. It depends. Like it depends on the efficiency of the robots, but in some
Even
industries,
more,
yeah.
even more of an argument to come up with a better system than the one we got now,
Yeah.
right? Because it's, we thought social media, like, again, this is the more, this, I think what we just watched from MSNBC
Hmm.
is indicative of the limitations of baby boomer analytics.
Hmm.
They did not grow up with the internet. They do not understand. So yeah, they can call us and say we're having attention issues, whatnot. The ones of us who have survived it and like come out of it okay or whatever, and are functioning adults, like why Matt, why aren't you talking to those people about why they're so pissed?
Yeah.
Like, yo, young people are having a tough time. I was like, well, right after that, if there was good producing going on that show, there would have been like two or three millennials that preferably read the book or at least just listen. Don't even make them read the book.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah.
and just be like, what do you think of these conclusions? And you know what their answers would have been like? Yes, his evaluation is correct, but he's not offering insight into why these contextual variables screwed over this generation.
No kidding. No
Talking
kidding.
about just education costs, just tuition. We smoke them on that one argument. Like, all you gotta do is say, do you know how much it cost to go to Berkeley in the 70s? It was like $220 a semester, like not even.
Man.
And now it's like, 20,000 or something ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
and that's a state school.
Insane.
That's a
Insane.
state school
I was just there too. I saw a concert there the
at
other
Berkeley.
night. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
It's still very pretty, but like
It's a
the
special spot. It's a special spot.
oh, big time.
But those people, so the Berkeley people, though, need to understand that they are going to be out supporting the political warriors of the next generation, I think. I don't think Berkeley trains for, I guess what I'm saying is the next generation of great political leaders, if they are to happen
Hmm.
from the left, they won't be so much uh, ideal like makeups of a progressive voice
Sure.
so much as they will be a superior counter voice to fascist Trumpism.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, and they're doing, Kyle Kalinske talks about resistance liberals
Yeah.
and how they're just anti-Trump all the time. And I think his overall point is right. Like, they're not doing enough. Let's offer something better. Let's punch them with the left hand and then offer America something better with the right hand. And yeah,
Yeah.
Biden's been doing a little bit of that, and he deserves credit, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to just talk about what you've done, as Obama's profound advice is. You got to talk about what you're going to do next,
Yeah, not
you
not to,
know, and
not
you
to mention like making the exact same points over and over again that we've heard regarding Trump. It's just like we've heard all these arguments before. Let's actually get creative about it. Like be a bit more deconstructive and it, because he's been a thorn in the side of America for the better part of like 9 years now. It's like I mean, a lot of people like I could probably even tell you like a lot of normies are just so tired of hearing about Trump. Like people like he doesn't make the news. He doesn't like get really trending so much like he did a year in years past like on news feeds at least in my experience anymore because it's just like uh, people just don't really care or they just
Yeah, no,
or
he's
they
not as
understand but
powerful as he used to be. He's
yeah
not as powerful as he used to be.
yeah
These
they under
criminal cases are catching up with him. They're sick of hearing about it. Like,
yeah
it's definitely waning in power for
of
sure.
course
But, all we're like I said when he got the nomination back in 2016, okay? I was scared when he got the nomination because I said in our two-party system, you're one weird controversy away from some psycho becoming president because the extreme can nominate a psycho, and that's what happened
yeah
with the what's it, Comey
mhm
and the laptop, the stupid laptop, the wiener
Yeah.
laptop or whatever, the announcement that there might be an announcement. Like
Yeah.
bullshit. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah.
And just completely change the course of American history. I remember
Yeah.
watching. I was like, "Are you kidding me? 10 days from the election? What are you doing?
Yeah.
The hell
Yeah.
are you doing,
Yeah.
dude? You're
Yeah.
inserting yourself into not just American history, global
Yeah.
history.
No
Are you
kidding.
serious? Like that man?
I
That man
remember.
should
I
be
remember when that happened.
protested. That man should be protested for the rest of his life. He
Didn't he?
should be
Didn't he
forced
get?
to like live. No, he got a book.
Oh
He got a book deal because he got
God.
fired by Trump. And
God.
then he
Of
looked like a
course.
victim. Trump made him look like a victim by firing him.
Yeah. And then liberals propped him up because yeah. God.
So
God. Yeah.
anyway, my point is that the left needs leaders not so much that they're an ideal representation of what the left is,
Yeah.
so much, and that is very important, but you have to be better at defeating the Trump trash. The message that's not being communicated right now is that this disease of Trumpism, okay, this is around for the rest of our lives. This
Yeah.
is just like, this is along the lines of what I talk about in my episode where at the end zones of the NFL it says, end racism. It takes all of us. Not possible. There will always be racism. It might get down to 1%.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice
Yeah.
if we got it down to 1%? Guarantee you there's always going to be that 1%. In fact, I guarantee you it's always going to be at least 15%. I'll
Yeah.
guarantee you it's at least 15% that you could maybe strive for and get. But right now, in terms of
Yeah.
where it's at, I'm not going to guess. But I mean, I know that a third of the voting public, at least 50 million Americans, probably closer to like 52, 53 million voters, okay, are Trump trash. They are not going away. A lot of them have kids. Those kids are going to inherit those values.
Yep.
So this is going to be a lifelong fight. This is not a cancer. The analogy that I use here, I think, is really effective. Let me know what you think of this. This is a cancer that you can't cut out. It's like leukemia. It's like it's in your blood.
Yeah.
And the only way to get rid of it is to radiate it. And we're never going to be, what's that thing where you're asymptomatic, where you get it into remission? We can get the cancer into remission, but we'll never actually get rid of the cancer. The
Right.
cancer will always be there.
Right. Yeah. Um. Yeah. The, you said it better than I could, honestly. It's like, yeah, if um, God, what was I gonna say? The fact that like it's always going to be there, like racism and whatnot. It uh it God, I just had it. My brain, like
I was
damn it.
talking about how the next generation of lefty political leaders is kind of, not necessarily going to be the great, voices that a lot of lefties want or expect. I
Right.
mean, just AOC is the easiest example on the squad. Oh, here they come, and they got the right look and the right energy. They're young, they're good looking, they're different looking, and but
Yeah.
they never voted as a bloc. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't seasoned politicians.
Yeah, it's
They're
gonna
young. I
take
mean,
it's
AOC's like 36 or something.
something like that. It's gonna take multiple election cycles to replace the old tired ranks of the Democratic Party to begin with. But yeah, I mean, until that happens, like the flowery rhetoric of like we're going to end this or end that is like some things just aren't like some things just aren't going to go away. Like
Well, I
the
think there's a good place for optimism. Like we'd like to think of ourselves as optimistic people. Like if you can
yeah
do anything, if you put your mind to it. No.
right
What did American Idol teach us about American society in terms of just human development, okay? I'll tell you what it taught me. Most Americans are told they should pursue their dreams
yeah
because anybody can do anything. Wrong. Okay? The message is, in contrast to what our douchebag friend from NYU just said, pursue your passions so you have the energy to do it every day.
yes that's exactly it yeah
Okay? And then find your talent and then develop your talent according to your passion.
mhm
Okay? So
Yeah, like
instead of
yeah, like
instead of instead of thinking that you're good at singing, right, and getting all this feedback that you suck at singing, because the singing is like the reason why it works with singing is because you don't need that much time to figure out whether or not someone can sing.
right.
Like acting and other performing arts that'll get you rich and famous, those are more complicated to evaluate. Singing, go ahead, let's hear it. What do you got?
Yeah.
And so, and it's just the easiest way to get famous. And, that's another thing is our obsession with fame in this country is like, a contributing factor. And he didn't really he talked about social media, but I don't think he ever used the word fame. Like
Right.
people want to be internet famous.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Is that wrong? Like, is that okay? Like maybe that's a good thing.
Exactly.
Like,
He seems to think like okay, like you can have a talent for something, but if you have no passion towards it whatsoever, like like why should you stick with it if you're not getting fulfillment from it? Because if you're passionate about something, it's always going to be fulfilling. It's always going to be there. Like I'm sure that there are talented musicians, talented singers, and whatnot that have gone on to have decent careers and whatnot, but over time your passion for it may disappear because like the industry or industries whatever field it may be are ruthless and exploitative or just harrowing and they just like weigh you down, so like even if like you have this talent for whatever it is, like
right.
your passion for it can wane away, so like
I know a
it's
lot of talented people in Hollywood that never got a break. I mean, for every Brad Pitt, there's a million guys who try to do the exact same thing and failed.
yeah, yeah, right,
And by the way, in that world, legacy means a lot.
of
Nepotism
course.
is ripe.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that George Clooney, for example, his aunt was Rosemary Clooney, who was a contemporary of Audrey Hepburn. That's how far back that one goes.
Really?
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, yeah. Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember what I was gonna say earlier though. You were talking
sure.
about how like we are never going to like actually fully eradicate and eliminate racism, and that's why I brought up like end racism, the flowery rhetoric and whatnot. Yeah, it sounds good, but like, is it realistic? And like even if like you do get rid of like a lot like there's very few racists left. Like ultimately take the Trump elections for example when he was actually when he became president and whatnot. A lot of conservatives want you to think that like they're not racist, but when you look at the fact that so many people voted for him, either they are racist or are demonstrating that they are okay with racism, if not being outright racist themselves.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's the inner feelings. Like he's saying what I'm thinking. It's the mouthpiece.
right.
I mean,
And
that's the
they don't
silver
want to,
lining. I mean,
and they don't want to
I
admit
have an
it.
I have an episode that I've been working on. I just have a title and some notes on it, but it's how Donald Trump saved America. And that's the silver lining. If we are to survive, if we are to resurrect our democracy,
Right.
it's going to be because Donald Trump exposed the darkest part of our society, which
Yes.
is two-pronged. There's the heartless point one percenters who are controlling the politicians, both sides, but the right much more so than the left. Like big oil isn't on the
Yeah.
left so much as it is on the right.
Right.
Um, and then you've got the Confederate flag waving, Bible beating gun nuts. Now, a lot of empathetic people who don't like conflict would be like, oh, it's not their fault, it's not their fault, it's not their fault. That might be true. But the stakes of this competition have become too high for us to consider their feelings anything more than a distraction.
Yeah.
We can no longer afford to waste our time worrying about their feelings. Oh,
Yeah.
the conservatives need to feel included. We
No.
got, I mean, Biden's whole thing was bipartisanship. That's his like legacy. He's like working with Republicans and getting stuff done. Getting stuff done. Don't you love that cliche in political campaign rhetoric? Getting stuff done. Well, what have you gotten done? Was it
Yeah.
good enough? Probably not. And that's
Right.
the other attitude adjustment that I think competitors who, like, with pro sports and whatnot and that culture, getting back to that touch point, that what's a winner's attitude? I'm gonna do the when you're practicing, preparing for a fight or a game or whatever. What's a winner's attitude? I'm gonna do the best I can, or it's not good enough.
It's definitely it's not good enough. Like,
It's not good enough.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
why, like, those guys who are super successful, like who had like Earl Woods, for example, in the case of Tiger Woods, like he was a dad who, he taught his son the right way to learn golf. He taught him from the green back. He knew the game. He was smart about it. And I don't know. I mean, Tiger obviously ended up with some issues, I would say. So, but we don't need to go there too far because I know he's still a lovable guy because he's such a winner. Yeah, I don't know about the other aspects of his life, but
Right.
you know, there's a guy that was taught the attitude of preparation is it's not good enough. It's never good enough. Until I win the Masters, it's never good enough. Until I win the PGA Championship, it's never good enough. Until I win the US Open, and then when you get done, I want to win it again because then that winning
Yeah.
is addictive. Like there's a reason why only a handful of franchises, and I'll name them. There's the Patriots with six, the Steelers with six, the Cowboys with five, the Niners with five, the Packers with four, the Giants with four, but there aren't that many uh, teams in NFL history with four or more Super Bowls.
Right. Of
And
course.
the reason is because of culture. It's a lot. It has to do with the quality of the organization. And some
Yeah.
organizations like the Browns and the Jets, even though I mean, there's no excuse, right? A team from New York having like never getting it right, except
Right.
for Super Bowl three, of course. But so they got one Super Bowl from it was
Yeah.
the third one ever, and it was arguably the most important one. But that's another conversation.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's like these. There are some franchises that are just legacies of failure. They're just losers.
Yeah.
They're just, and I hate that insult. I really do. I am
Sure.
always reluctant to call someone a loser. I think it's really hurtful. Just because you lost something doesn't make you a loser. As long as you get a few wins in your life, you're a winner, as far as I'm concerned. A few big
Yeah.
wins. That's all you need to be a winner for me.
Right.
And you don't even have to win a championship in anything. You never even have to win a championship. Like Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl. Guy's a winner. Guy's
Yeah.
not a
Oh
loser.
yeah.
Dan Marino, Dan
Absolutely.
Marino's, and so understanding like that's actually a part of of sports that I think a lot of lefties could dig is well presented NFL history. Like not just the NFL Network stuff, but
Yeah.
more like the psychological case study of guys like Bill Walsh who invented the West Coast offense and the physicality of the game. And there's a handful of historical plays. That's what I'm going to be working on over the course of this summer is kind of getting content up there of like this is how I would get you into the NFL because I think there's really only two leagues that you can really pitch to lefties that where you have a chance at them, and I think it's the NFL and the NBA. Everything
Yeah.
else is a maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Just behind the NFL, like we were talking about earlier, I think the other sport I follow, like even like vaguely, like even barely at all, would be the MLB. Like San Francisco Giants. I grew up with them, and like I
Yeah,
somewhat
baseball's
keep up with them
huge.
as well. Yeah,
Baseball's huge.
and speaking about all this, like I'm actually like really curious as to how, say for example, Kyle Kalinske would react to a lot of this dialogue because he is a big, big golf fan and a
Yeah, I
big,
know.
big NBA fan as well. Like he'll even cover um, certain uh, 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 I guess you like hosts of sports shows and whatnot, like talk shows and whatnot, doing like having political takes and whatnot, and um, uh, how that translates to his scope of politics and like basically inserting rhetoric into the stratosphere that isn't commonly heard in mainstream media from a progressive viewpoint, I suppose. Um,
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have a relationship with Kyle someday. He's a great guy. He's kind of a big inspiration.
Yeah.
Um, I think I don't know I'd be very interested to know exactly what part of New York he's from. I think he's from like Yonkers or White Plains or something like that. And that would explain the tattoo and the fact that he was a car salesman at some point.
Right. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, to get it into what was I gonna say? To get it back into what you were saying about like yeah, the dialogue about about this athletic sports mindset
Yeah.
and with the attitude, a winner's attitude. What is a winner's
Yes.
attitude?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think also too, I mean, one guy that comes to mind whenever I think about this is LeBron James, because LeBron James came out and supported Hillary Clinton in 2016, and he did the best he could and
Right.
whatever. He got in there late, he didn't know what he was doing, and it's definitely a riskier play to obviously to support Bernie. Um,
Right.
so he didn't do it, but what they can do, what you can get, I think, smart athletes like LeBron, and the best ones always are smart. Don't kid yourself. Michael Jordan's a smart guy. Tom
Yeah.
Brady's obviously a smart guy.
Yeah.
Joe Montana's a smart guy. Randy Moss, smart guy.
Oh yeah.
The great. It's not just a physical talent. You know,
Yeah.
it's also the mental acuity.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So,
like we were talking about earlier. Like the reason why, a lot of NFL players, especially, like are so, or like even in college, the reason why a lot of people like stay so like physically like fit and like attribute and like so um like in top notch shape. Like it also plays into your academic performance as well, because
right.
like you're not just exercising your brain muscle, you're exercising you're exercising every single like muscle in your body. And so like like it's not just about keeping your entire body in shape, but mentally in shape as well. Like it all has to like counteract one another, I suppose, for lack of a better phrasing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And one of the places I was going with using celebrity athletes, because I think celebrity athletes, well, there is no argument. Celebrity athletes, A-listing celebrity athletes, are the economically most significant form of celebrity in our economy.
Of course.
And so, with that in mind, they're an incredible resource, potentially.
Yeah.
And here's the selling point, okay? They are not there, like The Rock, for example. They're not there to tell you who to vote for. They are there to ask questions of the people that want your vote.
Yeah.
Okay? Like
Yes.
there was an interview with Dave Chappelle talking about he just, it was bad framing. He said, well, if the most poor people I know, if they had to choose between $1,000 a month, UBI, whatever is Ram, what's this guy's name?
Andrew
Asian
Yang.
guy from Andrew Yang,
Yeah.
and it was just $1,000 UBI. It wasn't a real UBI program.
Right.
And then or healthcare. He's like everybody I know would take the money. I'm like that's not the choice. That's not the right framing. You're not looking at the entire problem.
Right.
Like we have to have a healthcare system that works. It's eating us alive
Yeah.
economically. Like it's exploitive. It's a serious problem. Every other developed nation, this is the one problem where it's like we have examples from other countries to
Yeah.
learn from to come up with a better system. And
Yes.
I tell you what, the big elephant in the room might be with this conversation is we need to at some point start talking about obesity,
Hmm.
and we're not talking like I'm sure I don't know in the grand scheme, I don't know how the equation works, but I'm sure that because of our legendary overweight and obesity problem in this country, that our people are more expensive to keep healthy,
Yeah. Unfortunately.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely does play into it, but it's like if so many of these other countries, be it Canada, the UK, or the Nordic countries, if they were able to get it right and with much better results than the U.S., like there's no excuse at this point. It really is just maintain the status quo so that way a bunch of private companies can
Yeah,
maximize their
nobody likes their
profits.
insurance company. Nobody
Exactly.
likes their insurance company. Like they
No
just
kidding.
tolerate it. Like I don't think I get my money's worth,
Like
you
there,
know?
like there's nothing unordinary. Like there's nothing.
Extraordinary. Yeah, they talk about the best healthcare in the entire world. Actually, that's not even close to true.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. No, no kidding. It's like um, yeah, it's like what PragerU will try to say, like, oh
And it's
well,
so
can't
juvenile too.
like
Like
Canada, like oh well, there are people there that like wait forever and they end up dying waiting to get health care, and it's like okay, so like what, like you got like one or two cases versus what the hundreds of thousands in the U.S. It's like um, it's like there's nothing wrong whatsoever about like wanting a single payer universal coverage healthcare system in the United States. You know, like there are multiple starting points. Cause I can't tell you how many times I've had this exact same conversation. But whether it's like starting with a public option, what happened to that, Joe Biden? You say you're going to do that, or um, like Bernie wanted to expand Medicare to have Medicare cover everybody, like Medicare for all system, and like even Medicare is not perfect. Now, there are a lot of
now
people
we've
that have
talked
different.
about that. The art,
Yeah.
the pitch, the political marketing is Medicare for all or something better.
Yes.
Okay,
Exactly.
you're
Right.
changing the attitude. Like I want
Like at the bare
phrases
minimum.
that I want phrases that not only make a point but change the attitude about the way we express ourselves.
Yeah.
And the problem with the left is everybody's convinced that they know best how to express themselves, how to articulate the viewpoints of the left. And I'm here to say you don't. I'm
Right.
here to say you don't. If you're
Yeah.
in a position of influence right now, if you are directing, like if you like, where is the counter wokeism initiative? Okay, where
Right.
is someone getting loud and saying this is political correctness all over again? There's nothing special about the term wokeness.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
This
Yeah.
is the same game, just like the border. They
Yeah.
bring it up when they get into a bind.
Yeah.
Okay? Now,
Yeah.
with all this said, I don't know if you want to touch it. We should wrap up soon, but I tell you one thing that Biden missed his chance on. He's probably pot committed at this point, based on the amount of money we just sent them. Man, did he fuck up with Israel Gaza?
God.
I mean, what an
What the hell?
easy thing. Like there were so many opportunities to bail and say, and then just say get rid of Netanyahu, and just say get rid of Netanyahu, and
Yeah.
you have 1 week. You have one, or like whatever. You have a month. I don't care. Like and if you don't get rid of Netanyahu, and you don't get peace, and you don't get demilitarized, whatever, you could have demanded it. I mean, Reagan did it. Okay,
Yeah.
we all hate Reagan, but
Right.
God damn it, the guy knew how to exercise power.
Yeah.
That's power. And that's one thing the left doesn't know dick about. Now I'm
Oh
talking about
yeah.
the far left, the
No.
progressive left.
Yeah.
Like, the Godfather himself, what was it? William Jennings Bryan, the Godfather of progressivism, right? Ran for president 3 times. So he knew a thing or two about rhetorical discourse and competitive rhetorical discourse to get there, but he didn't win, which means we don't have the only we have to draw from in terms of how to exercise power are, I think, the Roosevelts, to a lesser extent JFK and LBJ, but the traditions, if we're looking for traditions to draw from, it's really just the Roosevelts
Yeah. Oh yeah.
in terms of exercising power.
Totally agree. Like absolutely. It's like excuse me. Oh
I'll fill the void while you get yourself together, man. My God.
I don't. I
Take
just
it,
had like a
wrong pipe? Wrong
coughing.
pipe situation?
Probably yeah. Like I had to
Do you
mute
want to
myself.
take a break while I go check on my dogs?
Sure. Yeah.
I've got no viewers. Yeah, just bullshit for a while. I'm gonna go check on my dogs,
Yeah.
okay?
For
All
sure.
right.
Um. Thank you guys for tuning in. The few of you there here at least. Nice of you to tune in as always. Thunderbird, it's good to hear from you. Wow, where did that come from? Yeah, I didn't want to just like cough like right into the mic. I have no idea what the hell that was about. But Jesus, like, why did that happen? It didn't even like come from anything in particular either. Ah, that really sucks because now lost my train of thought. What were we even talking about? Uh, the Roosevelts. Um, yeah, wielding power. Um, chat, help me out. um, yeah, ultimately, the left needs to do a much better job at like wielding power.
All right, I'm
Like,
back. One of my dogs had a tough stomach bug this morning, so I
oh
kept
no.
my eye on her. We had a bad accident. I had to go get some special food to get her stomach issues under control. Where were you? What were you just boring our audience with?
Well, trying to remember what we were just talking about before that random coughing fit came out of nowhere. Uh, yeah, left wielding power and the Roosevelts
Oh yeah, the
and
Roosevelts are only our tradition to really draw from, and we need to. And I think that's the big thing for us that's really tough to navigate. Okay, this is kind of the next turning point in our journey here
yeah,
as leftists with power. Okay, is we got to get over Obama.
uh huh,
Is we got to get like in order to get into normies, we got to be like, okay, I
hmm,
know you liked Obama. He had dignity and he had charm and charisma and he looked great in the tux and he said all the right things. He didn't deliver the kind of change he promised. He also, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's fair or should have happened or not, his uh, whatever successor was Trump. It's like Trump shouldn't have won. He lost the popular vote by 2.7 million votes. He pulled an inside straight, if you want to use a poker analogy, whatever. It still happened. It shouldn't have been close. It shouldn't have been close because Obama should have done so much in his 8 years. And look at what happened. He lost the what is the other lesson there? It's not enough to win just the presidency. You have to win both houses of Congress. And he had that in 2008, and then he lost it in 2010 midterms.
yeah,
Because what did he go with? He went with incrementalism,
yep. I just hope that
incremental healthcare change. I mean, they were still talking about healthcare. Like, you got to get over it, America. Like, Obama did a little bit of good. And he
yeah,
restored, like the decency to the presidency because it wasn't an idiot like W.
yeah,
Okay? That's where it ends. No more like acting as if this guy was an amazing president. He is not a revolutionary leader, and we
yeah.
need a revolutionary leader.
I
Period.
yeah. I just hope that normies and liberals get over Obama quicker than they did uh, Clinton because he was like the standard bearer for the Democratic Party and like their modus operandi, their ideology for quite a long time, like the Blue Dog Democrats, the neoliberals, and whatnot. Um, but of course, like as time went on, like public opinion of Bill Clinton soured for obvious reasons, like that probably aren't worth getting
Sex
into right
scandal.
now. Yeah, among other things,
Lewinsky.
of course, like Hillary
The
as well.
real Monica.
um, yeah, like um, it's gonna take new blood. It really is, and there's really not too many big names right now to fill the void. There needs to be like I want to see some new faces, like people like actually like plunging themselves like into the fray, big, making their voices big
Well, I
and
tell you,
like
I know
standing
some people
out.
who have gotten. I know a handful of people who have gotten recruited by the DNC and
Hmm.
actually like have like city council jobs and whatever. And I'm like, okay, where are the stars? Like, where are the
Yeah,
where are the stars? Like I thought we had, it always comes back to AOC for us progressives right now, just because that we're just desperately hanging on to her with dear life and hoping she's gonna like get back to basics and actually be a real progressive instead of just Pelosi's like next heir apparent, which is
Yeah,
what it sounds like she's becoming.
I think she kind of flew too close to the sun, because when she first like took office, like the media would just like nonstop talk about her. Like she, like it was completely unavoidable for like maybe a year and a half or so. And like I, 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 I wouldn't you know blame her if she was like just completely jaded. So like she has no real intention to be like
In
in
the spotlight again.
a superstar role or anything like that.
Hmm.
Which I don't blame her at all. Like I bet she's just completely
It's an
jaded
interesting idea. I
to
haven't thought about that. Or maybe she's just taking a back seat for a while and picking her spot
probably.
Because they know that
Yeah,
Pelosi's nephew is next in line for the presidency. Another good-looking straight white guy, rich
God,
white guy. I mean, I know his dad was a judge or whatever, but he still grew up with privilege. Give me a break.
right.
And there's lying about. He's like lied about his baseball career at Santa Clara.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you got to Google that. We won't spend any time on it, but maybe we
Jeez.
should check it out a little bit more because I want to get my facts straight. But yeah, apparently it's like a running joke, and the people who actually played baseball around that time at Santa Clara, that he was like a baseball star and got like drafted for Major League Baseball or something, some bullshit like that, like AAA. I'm like, no way,
That's
dude.
funny.
Give me a break.
I've
Give me a
actually been to
break. I don't.
the Santa Clara campus myself
Oh
as
yeah.
well. It's a nice place. It's a neat little area. Yeah, but yeah, no, I would
Yeah, but it's
I
for
would
someone ready, don't you expect the governor of California to go to a place like Stanford, Berkeley, UCLA, don't you expect like not to be an elitist, but or Pomona, like don't you expect
the
Santa
co
Clara? And then he doesn't have a I don't think he has a graduate school degree, right? I don't think he has a master's. Does
right
he? Let's take a look. Let's look him up real quick. I'm
because
just I mean I'm sorry, like I'm a little bit of a I think if
because
it's
those
like
are
a lot of
like the generally the cooler colleges, right?
well, just more well competitive. I mean, you're just look. A lot of
Right,
education is not just who
right.
your teachers are; it's who your peers are. You learn as much from your peers, if not more, than you do from your teachers. Like
Yeah,
the best part of Harvard isn't the professors. There's great professors at every Ivy League school.
of
It's the
course,
kids
right.
that it's the kids that go there, but not
Yeah.
anymore. It's changed. All right, so wait a second. Um, education. Where's his education? Dyslexia, kindergarten. Santa Clara University. Said he tried out for the baseball team, had surgery, didn't work it, didn't get on the team, whatever. He has reflected his education fondly, crediting Santa Clara's Jesuit approach with helping him become an independent thinker who questions orthodoxy. While in school, Newsom spent a semester studying abroad in Rome, Italy. So that is the extent of his education.
Really?
Wow, dude. I wonder why they like you. I wonder why they like you.
Man.
Hmm.
So
Because
like
you
no
will
deg
do what you are told to
yeah.
do.
Oh yeah. That's all it comes down
They don't want a real they want a guy who calls himself an independent thinker, but he's not a real independent thinker. I hate that cliche.
Yeah,
Anytime anybody says they're an independent thinker, be like, really? Okay.
sure.
That shit that's like it's like the cardinal sin of saying you're smart. If you're
Hmm.
smart, then it should become obvious for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, no, like the minute someone calls themselves an independent thinker, like my bullshit meter goes like off the charts immediately. Like I smell it in like
I'm a
right.
critical thinker. I march to the beat of my own drum is another one. I'm thinking of this Aaron Rodgers interview that he did with Pat McAfee. I'm like, what a
Oh
fucking
my God.
douchebag.
Yeah.
I mean,
That guy's a
that's
nut
the enemy.
too.
That's the enemy in terms of like how a politician could be useful in how a professional athlete could be useful in a political context. That's the opposite,
Yeah.
right? That's like the narcissism. That's, oh, I'm the best or among the best at what I do, which means I'm good at everything and I know everything and everyone's kissing my ass and telling me I'm great. And that's my deed or decree number seven. Just because someone is the best or among the best at what they do doesn't mean they're good at anything else, much less everything else.
Is
And isn't that weird? Like that's the oversimplicity thing. Is people just want
yeah.
the Messiah. They want the Neo, dude. They want
Yeah.
somebody to come in, kick ass, and have all the answers. And it's just not how it is. It's about a team.
Yeah.
Like that's one thing that I think AOC, if she could do it over again, and if you're right, which I think you might very well be, about her not wanting to be that, you know, red hot star,
Yeah.
messiah type character, whatever. And I
Right.
mean, come on, she's a BU grad. Really, a BU grad's gonna pull that off? No, give me a break. Um, if that's the case, then what she should have done, and it looked like she was going to with the squad,
Mhm.
um, promote people around her and say, "This is my
Yeah.
team of thinkers. This is who I have conversations with about policy on a daily, if not weekly basis,
Yeah.
or whatever." You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And she did that with the squad. It's like, okay, yeah, you've got diversity here, but you're isolating yourselves. Who's else? There should be another 10 people behind you. And now you've got a coalition. Now you matter.
Yeah.
Like who else? Who are you? Okay, now we know who you are. Who are you talking to? And there's
Right.
300 members of no, over 400 members if you include the Senate, 475 members or something like that. 300 some odd members of the House of Representatives. You know, like they don't all get press. Most of them are nameless.
Yeah.
You
No
know,
kidding. Like, yeah.
so AOC, like someone should have, and this is what I'm talking about. Like this is again bad grooming.
Mhm.
Bad grooming. And this is why I'll always, as a lefty, I know a lot of lefties. Here's like a fun, we can end on this one. I'm interested, hopefully, maybe this is a disagreement. I don't know. But it's personal experience driven. I acknowledge that. A lot of lefties don't think that things like private school should exist. And I'm here to tell you that there's a lot of reasons to not get rid of private school. The best one is that they have the freedom to be something like intellectual laboratories where you can experiment with different teaching methods,
Mhm.
and then those can be improved upon and then disseminated throughout other academic institutions. Lo and behold, boom, we've made education better because of the freedom that private academic institutions enjoy to do things unconventionally, right?
Okay.
But we still hold them to the same standards. So that's my defense of private education in terms of the best reason. In terms of my personal experience and just acknowledgement of my bias, the only public education experience I had reeked of all of the cliches that I heard about public high school and public college. I
Yeah.
went to UCLA and I went to a great program at UCLA for film school, but damned if we didn't run into quintessential public school issues. I mean, me and one of my classmates who went to Stanford, we would joke about it. And every time something went wrong with like, something didn't get paid for or scheduled right and we were late and the students were affected. And it's like somebody screwed up. Like the students are not the like where I come from. Like, see, this is the thing in private education, it's not like it can be done to a fault, and it often is. But the students, in a good way, are kind of treated like princes and princesses, like emotionally, like and intellectually. They're asked for their opinion. They are criticized in a constructive way and their emotions are acknowledged, their frustrations are acknowledged, their strengths and weaknesses are acknowledged. You get a lot of things from the teachers, the quality and flexibility and just downright superior quality of teachers that teach at private schools,
Yeah.
especially in high school,
Yeah.
especially in high school. Because there are great professors at every university and college. I believe you just got to find them.
Yeah.
They're but with high school, man, those developmental years, I can't tell you the voids
Mhm.
that those teachers filled in my life that I should have been getting those basic like adulting, like the guy was talking about,
Yeah.
those basics that I was supposed to be getting from my family that I wasn't. So I got
Yeah.
them from teachers instead. And
Right.
public education, I don't think a public education would have done that. I know a public education at high school would not have done that for me. I would have
Right.
gotten it. I would have screwed around. I would have screwed around. There would have been way too many distractions. I would have felt like it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't graduate top 5% of your class in public school, good luck getting into an Ivy League college,
Yeah.
especially if you're white.
Yeah. I think
and a man.
I think yeah, there's definitely merit to private schooling. I think where I'm a little iffy on schooling is homeschooling.
Oh God, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
don't get me started. No, because
yeah,
socialization is huge.
big time.
I went to an all guys high school, and that was actually one of the weaknesses of it. I mean, it was a strength, but it wasn't offset. Like we had a sister school, whatever,
Uh
but
huh.
it wasn't like normal. Like we weren't getting, and I had friends of mine who had sisters, and they kind of had, in a way, a leg up on relating with women for sure. I didn't have
Of
any sisters.
course, yeah,
And so that was definitely something that like I learned about. I basically Vanderbilt. It was funny. It was like a public school culture for rich kids that were going to college instead of actually in high school.
right,
And so I got the kind of public school social experience from college in a
right,
weird way.
yeah,
But and I can only imagine growing up with that social pressure at a younger age. I mean, it was bad enough in college, like the whole like social politics and stuff, and like cafeteria politics, and you know,
right.
it was different. I'm sure it was a lot different in college than it was in high school. But just getting a taste of it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it must have been like some of these big public high schools. Like, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, no big time, especially if it's a big school, big public school. Yeah, and like there's a lot less uh, teacher student relationship, I guess you could say, when it comes to
Right. And
engaging
the
on.
ratio,
Yeah.
there's that ratio
Oh
issue.
God, yeah. Seriously, like cram so many students into one class for one teacher. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
that's another
completely
one. How
understand.
do you feel about teachers' unions? How the right has villainized teachers' unions? Jesus Christ, I ran into that not too long ago with my in-laws. And maybe I got a list of questions I'm going to ask them. We'll do that tomorrow. That'll be a great source of content.
Sure. Yeah.
But I got that list of questions for people that will probably help our audience. Like, if standing your ground is gonna be a fight
Hmm.
with a conservative, okay, just feed their ego
Yeah.
by asking them questions
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they don't just
give
feed
them
their ego.
give
Don't
them
do
yeah, give them enough ropes that they have enough to hang themselves. Yeah.
unless you're running for office or a media figure or an activist of some kind or some kind of like leader, rhetorical leader for the left.
Then
It's
you
your
want to be more
best way to
impressive.
be it. It's the best way to be a teammate. It's the best way to be a team player. That's what you're doing on the sidelines. The political athletes are out there running for office and in certain parts of the media and activist community.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that tomorrow as well. And
Yeah,
um,
this is fun. This was really fun. I'm glad we
yeah,
just got to bullshit for a while.
absolutely. Yeah. This was a good ass stream for sure. I completely agree.
Yeah, man. Well, we'll get to more. I'm looking at our title here. Baby boomer conservatism sucks, especially with elderly boomers. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll change that. I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll
I'm probably
see.
gonna change mine too. Like MSNBC has some ideas about
Yeah, a
the youth
boomer
thing.
comments on the millennial struggle.
Yeah, yeah,
A boomer liberal comments on the millennial struggle, but doesn't blame, but doesn't what? I don't know. Whatever. Comments on the millennial show and whatever. Yeah, that's fine. All right, there you go.
yeah. Once my
That'll be
stream's
good.
up, I'll like alter the
All
title.
right, man. I'm gonna go ahead and end my stream for now.
For sure.
But it was good. Stay online though.
Yeah, absolutely. To the couple of you
Not
still in the chat,
not everybody.
thanks
Did
for
you what?
joining.
Did you have any chats you wanted to respond to before I go?
Nah, that was it.
All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow night, same time.